Chapter 16 of the textbook, which is titled Summarizing Your Data, focuses on one procedure in SAS, ProcMeans. As the name suggests, it will find a mean for us, an arithmetic average. It will also find many other statistics for us, and we can customize our results in various ways. We can also send the results to an output data set so that we can use those values in computations, and we'll cover all of that in this video. We'll begin by looking at the defaults, then how to request specific stats, how to use a class statement, how to apply a format to a variable that isn't already a class variable, and of course, sending those results to an output data set. The first example, program 16.1, uses the learn.blood dataset. I have already run the code from the create datasets file that he provided, and I have it open. Let's take a look inside. We have both categorical or character and numeric data. Gender, male and female, we have blood type, we have an age group, we have a subject number. We also have something called WBC, RBC, and this last variable, which I'm assuming stands for cholesterol. And take note of the values here. They're just on a continuous range there. And let's go ahead and run a default ProcMeans report for this data. By default, SAS will find the mean for every numeric variable in the data set, and just the numeric ones. It does not make sense to find a mean for a character variable. Also, by default, we will get the variable name, the label if one is provided, the number of non-missing observations, the mean, as well as a standard deviation, a minimum, and a maximum. Now let's start to customize. We can, in our ProcMeans statement, specify which stats we want to see, as well as some options. I want not just the number of non-missing observations, but the number of missing, and not just the mean, but the median as well. Sometimes it's helpful to compare these two numbers. I'll keep the min and the max, and I will tell SAS to display my results to 1 decimal place. And I'll want to find my means for only 2 of the numerical variables in my data set, just RBC and WBC. I see in my results that the stats I requested are displayed in the same order that I requested them. And we can see the mean for each of the 2 variables as well as the median. We can compare them. And now let's go a step further and specify a class statement. Now, what does this do? Well, I have a categorical variable in my data set, gender. I want to know if, on average, RBC differs between males and females. And what about WBC? I can find that out by placing gender in a class statement. Everything else here is the same as the previous program. And let's compare. And be careful, make sure you're reading from the correct column. Let's go way over here to the mean column. And it actually looks like for RBC, my mean is the same for females and males, but it differs for WBC between females and males. All right, let's go back to the code. Remember that cholesterol variable? We did not have low and high cholesterol ratings there. We just had the actual cholesterol numbers. But we can apply a format and group any cholesterol up to 200 into a category called low, and then the others into a category called high. And we don't necessarily have to be creating a new variable to be able to use this information. In ProcMeans, we can use a format statement to apply this format to this variable and then put it in this class statement. So this is now acting as though it's categorical, because I'll be able to find the means for that high group and for that low group. Let's run this and see. And here we have, for the low cholesterol observations, we can compare the mean RBC to those for the high cholesterol group, as well as the mean WBC for the low cholesterol to the high cholesterol group. All right, now let's say I wanted to actually use my results in some computations later. I could do that if they were inside a data set. And so I'll specify an output data set in an output statement. And I'll put output out equals, and I'll give it a name. So the data set that's going to be created will be called my summary. And I want to include both means. I want the mean RBC and the mean WBC, and I'm going to give those means new names to distinguish them from the original variable names. So I'll say, call the mean RBC, similar with WBC. And notice that this isn't exactly the way the author wrote this program. He specified a no print option. I want to print this for you and then show you the data set just for comparison's sake. All right, so we can see here the mean RBC is 5.48 approximately, and the mean WBC is 7,042. Right, now let's go over here to the work library and open up this My Summary data set and scroll over, and we can see those same two values here. This is my mean for the RBC variable, and this is my mean for the WBC variable. And now that it's in a data set, I can use it if I want to. Now, this type variable has some meaning. It will have more meaning if you specify a class variable. So I'm actually going to go back into a previous program and include an output statement just so you can see what happens with that type variable. So up above where I'm finding my mean for RBC and WBC by class, I'm going to add an output statement, and I'm just going to call this mean cholesterol, and I'll use the same names that I did below for the actual means of them, and run this and open up the data set so you can see what that type variable gives us. We actually have 3 rows here. 0 is the overall mean, and then we have 1 for those class means. And someone's at my door, and that's the end.